Welcome everyone to our live stream of the virtual Climate Future Rally. My name is Emily Frias. I'm the Maryland Grassroots Coordinator with CCAN Action Fund. We're so excited to be partnered with several great youth organizations from across the state, and we won't give too much preamble before we get right into our speakers. First, I'll just do a quick review of our agenda to let you know how you can take part in making sure our leaders in Maryland hear that we need climate solutions now. Not sometime down the line, not next year, right now. So first, I'd like to encourage everyone watching to share this live stream. This will really help to spread our message far and wide. So it's very important that you just click that share button right now. After I'm done speaking, you'll hear from several youth activists from all over Maryland. Then after our speakers have concluded, I'll lead you through taking action by making a sign and posting to social media. So stick around to make sure your voice is heard. One more thing I'd like to mention, we were originally planning to broadcast our speakers live from Annapolis today and give legislators and media an opportunity to take photos with our signs and lovely painted banner. But due to the weather forecast, we moved that portion of the event to next Tuesday. But we still really wanted you all to see the banner, so we've set it as our virtual backgrounds today on Zoom. All right, and without further ado, I will pass it to Reese Barrett, the coordinator of the Mary Perk Student Climate Action Coalition.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Climate Future Rally. I am so excited to be here with you all today. My name is Reese Barrett, and I am a student at the University of Maryland, College Park. I'm a sophomore chemical engineering major, and I minor in sustainability, and I'm really involved on campus with several clubs and programs. I'm also, like Emily said, the campaign coordinator for the Mary Perk Student Climate Action Coalition, or MSCAC, which represents hundreds of students from 11 universities across the state. Our coalition has written a bill called the Future Act, which is currently in the Maryland General Assembly and will hopefully soon become law. We're really proud to be pushing for tighter carbon neutrality deadlines for our state's public universities with an emphasis on equity and inclusion. Here today, we also have youth speakers from Sunrise, Maryland, Walt Whitman High School, Morgan State University, the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and Bowie State University. I'm so grateful to be advocating alongside these amazing activists today, and even more grateful to call many of them my friends. The Future Act and the Climate Solutions Now bill are both crucial pieces of legislation that will put Maryland in position to be a leader on the climate crisis. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says that to limit temperature increases to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius, we must have global annual emissions by 2030. To reach these goals, our state must act now. Climate change is already impacting the Maryland environment and its citizens. Sea level is rising faster than average because our land is also sinking. Communities around the state, from Ellicott City to Baltimore to Annapolis to the Eastern Shore, are dealing with more frequent and more severe flooding. More intense storm events and warmer water temperatures cause algal blooms and dead zones, which harm the health of our beloved Chesapeake and the livelihoods of those who depend on it. As adults, and especially as people in government, our legislators have a responsibility and a moral obligation to leave the world a better place than they found it. It's past time to act, but they can start with these bills by taking real action that leaves a legacy telling their children and grandchildren, people like you and me, that they love us enough to protect the planet we will inherit. Again, thanks for coming out today. It's because of youth advocates like you that the climate movement has come so far. We're on the brink of some very big wins this legislative session with Climate Solutions Now and the Future Act, and I'm so excited to hear from our wonderful speakers next, and then join in on the social media action at the end of the rally. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our first speaker from Sunrise, Maryland.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me on here. My name is Piper Gross. My pronouns are they, them. I'm 17 and I'm the political lead for Sunrise Movement Maryland, which is a coalition of 11 Sunrise hubs across the state. I'm here today to give a voice to Sunrise Movement Maryland and to demand climate justice and action from our legislators. So a little bit about me. I've lived on a homestead in the forested mountains of Maryland my entire life. My family grows a lot of our own food and has always had a connection to the land because we depend on it. This has taught me the value of food and agriculture in our community and how we connect over such a basic need. I remember one summer day specifically. I was about 14 and some friends asked me to help them harvest Brussels sprouts. Their crop had been failing all summer. We were worried that they would not have enough to sell, but it was time to see what was left. We sliced through the green rows that we had planted, a bright sky above us, the sweet smell of new growth below. Kneeling there, I remember reflecting on how each Brussels sprout represented the plant's resilience, how my friends had the courage to grow even though they knew it was a hard year, and how they were accountable to their community for providing food. I remember having this feeling of awe at their commitment and willingness to fight for something they loved. After we finished, we had enough Brussels sprouts to eat all evening. The work we had put into changing the future of these little plants had paid off. Years later, I reflect on this because I know it takes accountability, resilience, and courage to feed a community and to make change. I see it in activism all the time, and that's why we're all here. It takes effort to grow and change in both the agricultural sense and the political sense. But change is exactly what we are demanding from our legislators today. Let's be honest, climate change is only getting worse. It has and will cause floods, droughts, temperature changes, and so many other disasters. Countless communities that provide food to Maryland will be under attack. Many of these are low-income, working-class, and BIPOC communities. Local farmers, like my friends who grew their Brussels sprouts, will encounter more and more challenges, more bad harvests. Frederick feels this deeply because half of our economy relies on agriculture. Food security and jobs are at risk because of the climate crisis. At the time when so many jobs have been lost to COVID, we cannot endanger more. This is an issue of climate justice. And the worst part is many of our politicians, the people we elect, have failed to address the climate crisis with urgency. They have failed fighting for climate justice. The unsupportive legislators have the opportunity to change that, though. The Climate Solutions Now Act, which recently just passed the Maryland Senate, and the Future Act could be our first step. If they're passed in full and kept as originally intended, they could be the shift we need. I also want to thank the legislators who have supported these acts. They are showing us that they hear our calls to action and that they are stepping up as the political leaders we need. So let's ground ourselves for a second. No one bill or piece of legislation is going to be enough to fix the climate crisis in Maryland. Sunrise knows that the Climate Solutions Now Act and Future Acts are just the first step. We need to address the emergency in full. They do have the right direction, though. Politicians should know that this is only the first move, that we're not leaving. We will demand more because the people we love and the places we call home are relying on it. I know that we can pass these legislation. We are courageous, resilient, and will hold politicians accountable. This is just the start. We demand more. We demand aggressive action on climate now because it is our only option. I am here for every person harvesting our food under the sun, for my friends and family who depend on this land. I ask that each of you find the courage to demand action, find the resilience to keep coming back, and hold our legislators accountable. We must grow for change. I'm now going to pass it off to Hannah.
Hi, my name is Hannah Fox, and I'm a ninth grader at Walt Whitman High School. The Climate Solutions Now Act of 2021 is a critical step in creating a new standard for environmental policy in Maryland. Among many other efforts, this bill will require a 60% reduction in greenhouse gases, fund vehicle electrification, create a goal of planting 5 million new trees by 2030, and so much more. But my favorite part of Climate Solutions Now, the now. Why now? Now because we can't wait any longer. Now because 1 in 9 people globally do not have access to clean, safe water. Now because data indicates that sea level and temperature rise won't be slowing down anytime soon. Now because the unprecedented number of extreme natural disasters is only going to increase. Now because there might not be a later. Climate change is happening now, so we need solutions now. I've gone to the Chesapeake Bay nearly every summer. For me, it's a place to reconnect with friends and family while enjoying the waters and hiking trails, going on bike rides, and looking for wildlife. I heard about the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and recently became a part of their student leadership program. There, I have met so many motivated, passionate high school students who really care about saving the bay. The goal of planting 5 million new trees is so important to me and other student leaders because it is a simple and really effective way to reduce polluted runoff from entering the bay, which is one of the biggest problems that the bay is facing right now. I've met so many student leaders who've already started working so hard on projects to build more stream buffers around the watershed to contribute to this effort. It also helps environmental justice efforts, planting 500,000 trees in underserved communities, such as historically redlined communities. Climate Solutions Now will take crucial measures to protect a national treasure that's already overburdened with the effects of climate change. Though I've spent so much time at the Bay, I haven't always lived in this area. Before I moved to Maryland a few years ago, I lived in Florida and Puerto Rico, where I got to see and experience firsthand what climate catastrophes can do to a community. I won't ever forget the sight of my neighborhood after hurricanes. Fallen trees covering every street and every block, houses and stores and restaurants boarded up, every neighbor asking one another if they knew when the power would come back. School was canceled for weeks as we cleaned up the debris from our own front yards. But disasters also bring people together. People helped and supported one another in a really encouraging way. Neighbors helping neighbors, people from all generations and all walks of life, working together with the same purpose, to recover and to rebuild. This youth rally reminds me of those moments. Even during a global pandemic, people have found a way to come together and fight for change and reform. But sometimes, as it often does, the reform we need falls into the hands of our elected officials. It becomes the responsibility of our representatives to enact the solutions that organizations like the Chesapeake Bay Foundation and the Chesapeake Climate Action Network have worked tirelessly to develop and to establish. We have to keep telling our reps to vote for Climate Solutions Now because our environment is counting on us, and not just part of the bill. It is important that every factor it encompasses is included, from the 5 million trees to providing solutions for displaced fossil fuel workers to the environmental justice factors I mentioned earlier. Every single part of this bill is vital to building a better future for our environment and our people. Thank you. I'll pass it to Melody.
Good afternoon. My name is Melody Arrington. I'm a junior government major at Bowie State University. I'm the political action chair of the SGA and the vice president of the Bowie State NAACP. I'm also the BSU delegate for MSCAC. I'm a native of Prince George's County, Maryland. In accordance with national trends, Maryland counties with large populations of people of color are more likely to be subject to environmental racism. Race is the most significant predictor of a person living near contaminated water, air, or soil. To be more specific, I am from Upper Marlboro, a suburb in the county. Upper Marlboro is located between two landfills to the northwest, burning toxic gas that counts as renewable energy in Maryland, and to the southeast, the sewage treatment plant, with the state's only sewage sludge incinerator. The sludge incinerator at the sewage treatment plant has been around since 1971, and it burns up to 12 tons of sludge per day. My source is theenergyjustice.net. My alma mater, Dr. Henry A. Wise Junior High School, is located less than 10 miles from the Brown Station landfill. You can ask any student from Wise. The smell emitting from the landfill is very pungent, especially during the summer and on hotter days. These fumes are toxic, and the effects on the health of county residents are numerous. In 2016, according to the EPA, Prince George's County released 232,827 pounds of both on-site and off-site waste into the air, water, and soil. This was the second highest total in the state of Maryland, only behind Baltimore City, which released 600,080 pounds of on-site and off-site waste into the air. Baltimore City leads the state in asthmatic mortality and pediatric asthma hospitalizations. Often low-income communities of color are most impacted by environmental racism, and Baltimore is no different. Air pollution and heat islands are few of many effects of climate change in our state. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated existing inequalities in our state. Pre-existing conditions like asthma and other respiratory illnesses increase the likelihood that an individual will contract COVID-19 and succumb to it. It is too late to reverse the effects of environmental racism in the COVID-19 pandemic. As the climate crisis escalates and we exhaust finite resources, inevitable phenomena like global pandemics and natural disasters will devastate marginalized communities first. We are at the turning point. As the climate crisis worsens, environmental justice is an issue that cannot be ignored. My generation will be tasked with fixing the legacy of ineffective climate policy. Our legislators must take the necessary action to fight for our future and the future of our planet. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erin Kozlowski. I'm a junior at UMBC, where I work as an eco-ambassador for our Office of Sustainability, and I'm one of the UMBC delegates to MSCAC. I grew up in Catonsville, 5 minutes away from Patapsco State Park, where my family often hiked on the weekends throughout my childhood. As we got older, my sisters and I began going on trail runs there with my dad, and in high school, I spent countless hours in those woods at cross-country practice with my teammates. Catonsville is also about 5 minutes away from historic Ellicott City. I remember watching videos of the devastating flood in 2016 caused by a 1,000-year rainfall event. I was shocked that this could be happening so close to me. The Patapsco trails were closed for several weeks due to the flooding, and my team had to find other places to practice. I'm very lucky that I was only minorly inconvenienced by the flood, but the 2 people who lost their lives and the many others whose livelihoods were swept away by the water rushing down Main Street were not so lucky. In 2018, Ellicott City once again felt the effects of global warming when it flooded for the second time in just 2 years. I've loved nature and cared deeply about protecting our planet since I was young, but these floods truly opened my eyes to the fact that climate change is not just a conceptual issue that will affect us in the future. It's happening right now. One of my greatest inspirations is Greta Thunberg. I first heard about her Fridays for Future strikes right before the global climate strike in September of 2020. She inspired me to stop eating meat, and more importantly, she inspired me to reach out to UMBC's Office of Sustainability to see how I could get involved, which is how I became an eco-ambassador and ultimately how I joined MSCAC. Greta has emphasized that she didn't begin her school strikes because she doesn't value her education. She began them because those in power have failed to recognize the climate crisis, and she felt she had no choice other than to take action. And I imagine most of us are here today for the same reason. We sense the urgency of climate change. We've felt the rising temperatures. We've witnessed the crazy weather events around the world. We've seen the Times Square climate clock ticking down the seconds until the damage is irreversible. It's not our fault that we inherited this mess, but it does mean we have a responsibility to step up and make our voices heard. I believe we have every right to be angry about the state our world is in, but that anger will get us nowhere if we don't also have hope. And we do have reason to hope. The youth climate movement is diverse and intersectional. It's filled with brilliant, passionate, and hardworking people. Our strength lies in numbers, and we have wisdom beyond our years. We join the generations of climate activists who have preceded us, including Indigenous people who have practiced sustainable living for centuries. We celebrate their successes, and we also recognize that we must go further if we want to stop that countdown in Times Square. And now it's up to our legislators to do their part. To those who are with us, we thank you for your support and attention to this critical issue, and for recognizing that as new voters come of age, priorities are shifting. Your guidance has been crucial in helping us reach this point. As a UMBC student, I would particularly like to challenge Speaker Adrian Jones, a fellow retriever, to be a champion for the climate by passing the strongest possible versions of CCAN and MSCAC bills. To those that aren't yet with us, we welcome you to come talk to us and learn more about our work. We are excited to share our passion and knowledge with you, and to find new and creative ways to fight climate change together. The environment is not and cannot afford to be a partisan issue. Instead, it serves as a great opportunity for us all to join together as a Maryland community. Passing the Climate Solutions Now and the Future Acts will position our state as a leader for others to follow, and will secure Maryland's environment for us and future generations. We've done everything we can to fight for our futures. It's time for our legislators to step up and leave us a world worth living in. Thank you, and I'll pass it to Duffin.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. My name is Samai Duffin, and I am a junior at Morgan State University. I'm also the president of the Geographical People Society on my campus, and I am an ROTC cadet waiting to be commissioned in the U.S. Army in the next year and a half, actually. I'm here today to advocate for climate action now in order to encourage a new lifestyle for those who are unable to afford it. A little bit about myself. I was raised in the lower middle class suburbs of Montgomery County alongside my grandparents. Didn't really have my parents in my life, so it was a lot of like compensating for me. I had to compensate for not having parents. So in order to relate that to what's going on here, like climate action now, in November 2019, I had the opportunity to attend Rutgers University Climate Change Symposium, where I was able to meet Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson and Naomi Klein, who are two prominent pioneers in the modern day climate change activism movement. They were the first people to educate me on what environmental social justice means, and being able to see from a mixed Black woman and a white woman on the two different perspectives of and two different definitions of what environmental justice means, just through those lenses, really inspired me and to fight for the communities that I represent in all of their perspectives. Which leads me to say that, like, in a city like Baltimore City, there's where majority of the population is African American community, there's so many opportunity for green development within the city. And it seems that because there's so much opportunity and nothing has been done so far, it seems as if climate change needs to be a defense plan, and that defense plan is a privilege based off of what you can afford, and that shouldn't be the case, where in a food desert such as Baltimore City, like there shouldn't be, there should be green spaces available that people should be able to go to when there's no grocery store near them, in order to get fresh food, not having to go to Family Dollar and buy boxed food all the time. The need for green space in this nation is crucial as the United States becomes more urbanized, and we continue to see cities build all over the nation. So, and having to incorporate these green practices in these cities, the education for that is needed. And we see that in these cities, the population are African American and minority communities. So why are we not giving them the resources to educate themselves if we're not going to give them the money for it? There's this false taboo that climate change can only be fought on the grass tops when there's real strength on the grassroots. And groups like MSCAC and CCAN continue to show that as we push these climate bills out. There's so many tools and knowledge, and with with passing these bills, those communities are able to gain that knowledge through legislation, which is another scope that, to be completely honest, a lot of older African American people don't really pay attention to nowadays because of what's happened historically to them. So we have a chance to incorporate and push these, green, these climate action solutions, so that we're able to educate and provide knowledge that cannot be taken. It is over the past year, we, the students, have had to adapt to new ways to learning, how to figure out how to learn through a pandemic. As a nation, we've had to figure out how to learn through a pandemic. So pushing these climate solution acts will help people understand that it's a lifestyle change that we are going to have to adapt to in order to, save our planet. And it comes from position of power, such as politicians, who's in politics right now. It comes from position of power to set that foundation, like, hey, this is what we need to work on. We're going to pass legislation, and you as the people need to push this out on the grassroots level and continue to, push our agenda. And, it is time to start. Now is the time to focus on climate change. It has been the time to focus on climate change, but now is the time to really start. This generation has so much power, so much voice, especially social media and all the movements that have been going on throughout the summer. We are not a generation to shut down. We won't be shut down. So the time is to act now. or we will not be stopped. We will continue to push forward. It is adapt or die, and we are trying to thrive as much as possible. And we, passing these bills, passing, climate legislation is so important in educating and uniting the United States of America again. So I appreciate, I really look forward to, working with you all, and I appreciate you, I appreciate you letting me come out and speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers. It's really grounding for our movement that we are really deeply aware of what exactly it is we're fighting for. And all of you have done such a great job at really painting that picture for everybody listening. What is at stake, and what is at stake, not just in a broad sense, but also for you personally. So we really, really appreciate how honest and clear and specific you've been about what we need to do right now. So just want to say thank you so much to every single one of our speakers for all of your perspective and your urgent message. So with that, I'm going to lead us now in taking action on social media. As Stefan so well put it, we are all on social media now. We really have a voice in a way that historically you didn't always get to see as directly. We have this opportunity. So first, I'm going to share my screen and just show you all the link where you can go to access our social media toolkit. Right. Okay. So you can also find this the link to this toolkit in the descriptions of the live streams where you might be watching, or in the comments. But if you're having trouble finding the link in the comments, you can go to bit.ly/climatefuturesocial for instructions on making a social media post. So in that pack, we have instructions both for individuals and for groups. So I will, in just a moment, go describe how an individual can take action. But if you do have a group social media, you're a business owner, you have another platform, please go to that pack and see the options for you there. Okay, so step one is to make your sign. So this is going to be a very creative sign making action. We've done this historically. It was a photo petition. But what you're going to want to do, and the instructions again are in the pack that is linked there. You can type in, you're going to want to make a sign. And here's my example. Hopefully you can read it through my backdrop. But it says, "We need action. Maryland can't wait." I've also decorated it a bit. And it says #ClimateSolutionsNow, as well as #FutureAct. And it also has, and so it's hard for you guys to see it. But it says the bill numbers as well, and all of that is linked. All of that is described in the pack again, so you don't have to rely on seeing my sign there. It wasn't showing up through my background. But yeah, make your sign. Take a moment and get creative with it. Decorate it. Make it stand out visually. Then you're going to want to craft your post. Step 2 is craft your post. So we have suggested language for you in the pack, but also, as we've seen with the examples of our wonderful speakers today, really highlighting your personal experience with climate change, your reasons for fighting, is very effective communication. So take a moment to craft your post. If you're in a hurry, you just want to get it done, feel free to borrow the language that we have written out for you. But if you want to take a little longer to write out your story, it is a really great way to make the reality of the situation more apparent. So step 1, make your sign. Step 2, craft your post. Step 3, which is the last step, is to tag your legislators. So we have also included in the pack a list of all of the legislators of Maryland's social media handles. So great resource there, not hard. You don't have to go dig for your particular legislator. Now, if you don't know your legislator, you can go to mdelect.net. That's also linked again in that pack. And you're going to want to tag your state legislators. So I'm actually going to share with you just really quickly which ones I mean, because sometimes that can be a little confusing. So I've here entered the address of CCAN, our headquarters in Tacoma Park. And you see here our state senator is Senator Smith, and our delegates are Charkoudian, Moon, and Wilkins. So if we were making a post, we would use those representatives there. Some folks end up tagging their state, their federal reps, which of course we still want them to take action on climate, but in this particular case, the legislation is going through Annapolis, so we want to make sure we're tagging our state legislators. Okay, so if you have any questions on how to make a post or you want further guidance, feel free to contact info@chesapeakeclimate.org, and we will be happy to answer any of your questions or even just comment on the live streams. I know our social media team is looking at those. But that is the number one way you can participate today, is by making a sign and tagging your legislators and sharing this live stream as well. So with that, that is our program for today. As I mentioned, we are going to be going back to Annapolis next Tuesday to give an opportunity for legislators and press to take photos with our lovely signs. So we'll look forward to seeing legislators tagging themselves and sharing photos from our event on Tuesday. But for now, the speaker portion and this part of this program has concluded. So thank you to everybody who's watched. Just before we end, I'm going to just share one more time that link to go to our social media toolkit. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for everybody who's joined.